Yo, yo, yo. It's another episode of Open for Discussion. I am your host and your boy, C. Maurice Ball. And today we're doing something a little different than what I normally do. I normally have a guest on that we are interviewing, but today, we are doing something a little different. And so today we're going to have a conversation, and I have a special guest that's going to be on, and possibly another guest that's going to be pulling up to talk about the state of the church. And we're going to just have a casual conversation, an authentic conversation, a conversation about where we believe the church is, where we are with the church. At the end of the day, it's still God's institution. So my goal is not to bring any kind of problem to the church without having a solution to that, to whatever I believe the issue is for myself. So with that being said, again, this is not going to be a bashing session of the church, but it is definitely going to be an opportunity for us to have dialogue with and about what is happening in the church. So without further ado, after we kick this intro, we're going to pull up, we're going to have my man on, and we're going to just discuss where we're going to talk about the church. So without further ado, kick that intro. So I got with me my guy, um, and he is an awesome dude. He is the founder and the CEO and president of Bro Can We Talk. He is the podcast extraordinaire. And without further ado, let me introduce you to my man, Damon Austin, the man, the myth, the legend in the building.
Thank
What up, bro?
you. Thank you so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be on with you, bro. You already know. You already know what a love is, bro.
Oh man, hey, you know, so so I was thinking about this as I started thinking about talking about the state of the church, and it really just came to me at a spur of the moment. So a few of the other people that I asked, because it was spur of the moment, already had things planned in their schedule, but I really wanted to have a larger panel of people that was going to be on to actually throw some, so that we can have a wide variety of conversation from people who are in different states of the church, and or different levels in their walk. And so I didn't, people had things to do, but it's all good. So
You
we
said
just going to go ahead.
somebody. It's always open.
Hey, right.
Let me call my man. It's open like Circle K.
so so the topic for tonight is the church in living color, the state of the church. But before we get into talking about the state of the church, and before we get into um, any of this, I am going to pray, and then we just gonna get this party started. So, Father, you're good and great and mighty, and we just thank you for this opportunity to be able to share some light on some things that may be hindering us from moving into a greater understanding of the church and its purpose. But Father God, it's not our intentions to bring any reproach to your institution of church, but it's that we have this authentic conversation that will help people, lead people, and guide people to understanding where they are and they walk. It is in the matchless name of Jesus we pray. Amen, amen, and amen.
Amen, bro.
So, so man, What's been on your heart lately? What's been on
So,
your heart about just where you are? Where are you in your walk? Let's just start that. Let's start with right there.
oh, okay. How much time we
Hey,
got?
bro. Hey, we could be here all night. It don't even matter.
um, because of that the work that I'm putting in, because of me actually putting action behind the hope. I would like to think that I'm on the backside or coming out of the wilderness, if I will. You know what I mean? It's been
Uh-huh.
a wilderness experience, and going in, I was kicking and screaming, and coming out, bro. I'm really eager, for what's about to pop off. So it's been good, man, but um, it's been necessary. Like there's been moments of moments of isolation, to say the least. It's been a season of isolation, and and I'll say, man, it feels like the bigger the call, the stickier. Sticky's the wrong word. The bigger the call, the weightier the weight, if I can say it that way. It's been
Uh-huh.
a weighty, you know what I mean, a weighty weight. And so I'm just excited, man, about this transition, and about, you know, finding the courage, actually. And I, shout out to you and a couple other brothers that have really been, that I'm accountable to, but for keeping me going forward. Because when you receive a call, and you know that thing that is what you're supposed to put your hands to, man, it's really a daunting thing. I forget which author. I believe it's James Clear, who calls it a BHAG, which is a big, hairy, audacious goal. And those goals just scare. I know this is YouTube. I don't want to get you demonetized, so I won't say what it scared that out of me.
Right.
And what it did,
Family
man,
show.
fight or flight, bro. Um I was actually listening to a podcast. I'm heavy on the Maxwell leadership. I'm on the Maxwell leadership team with John Maxwell now, and I'm heavy on their podcast. And I was listening to one of the guests break down fight or flight, and he was talking about how the blood from the frontal cortex actually leaves, and common
Mm.
sense goes out the window, and that's why you see people doing erratic, crazy stuff in moments where it's like, why would they do that? And so my fight or flight reaction was to go and do something other than what I was actually hearing. And it really, we contribute to our we prolong our wilderness experience. I'll say that.
For sure.
And
For
so
sure.
so with regard to where I'm at, man, how I'm doing, I feel really, really good. I feel a lot better about my situation than I would have answered 2-3 months ago. And so I'm really excited about 2-3 months from now, bro, as I continue to just take the steps. You know what I mean? Taking the steps, being continuing to do the inner work on myself. And there's a lot of people that need to hear me say what I'm gonna say. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I've read
Go ahead.
more books. I've read more books from January 1 until today, which is March 28th. I've read more books in 3 months than I have in the last 3 to 4 years, bro.
I dig that.
I mean, I'm on like my sixth book of the year so far, and it's I'm taking time to comprehend. I'm excited about the trajectory I'm on, bro. So it's healthy.
Man, that's what's up. So where I've been at in this whole thing is, one, I've been walking in this thing for about 25 years. And so when I got saved initially, I got saved once. So I've been having the track shoes on, running this race nonstop for the last 25 years. And of course there's those moments of weariness. Of course there's it tells us that we will go through the valley of the shadow of death. It tells us that. But it also tells us that he'll lead us by the still waters as well, right? So
Mhm.
in my walk over the last, probably last year, the last few years, it's been more so uh focusing on what God has said, how he said it, and then doing what he said do. Now, there was a period probably in November where it got a little cloudy because I allowed some negative thoughts to come in and take resonate in my brain, right? And those
Right.
negative thoughts spawned babies, and then those babies became terrorists in my head and
Uh-huh.
had me fighting with myself about who I am and who God had called me to be, and knowing that what He's called me to do and how He's called me to do it, I allowed my thoughts to produce fruit that wasn't really real, but I made it real because I started to produce the fruit of it.
That makes sense.
And
Makes
so that's kind of where I've been with everything. And the reason why I wanted to do this state of the church is because I know several people who are walking in this walk that just have they view church differently based off of where they are now, right?
sense.
Like I view church differently based off of where I am. 10 years ago, I would be in a different we this would be a different conversation because where I was in the church 10, 12 years ago.
I understand.
And now I'm not as let me see how I can say this. I'm more so trying to be the church as opposed to being in church, if that
Ooh,
makes sense.
for sure. For sure. Yeah, I think, man, I've watched since I've known you, 2003. That's 21 years, bro. Since I've known you, um, I've watched people that are close to us, um, reconsider what we all once believed together. And naturally it makes me take a pause and say, let me weigh out what it is that I believe, and then add to that. Let's get into it. The shenanigans of man.
For
It
sure.
makes you really just take a strong look and a poll at what it is actually that's going on around us, and why are we, the church, doing the things that we're doing, and also why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Am I showing up? Am I serving out of habit because I've grown up in this thing? I'm 46 years old, and I tell people I've been in the church 46 years. Um, and I grew up in the church 8 days a week, and so I've seen all the things all of us have seen, the good and the bad things. And man, I love the church. I love the people. I love God's people, but I don't like where the church is
Right.
overall. I have to say that, you know, um, I just don't, man. It's lost its the traction that it did have with me. It's kind of rubbed off, and I don't know where I'm at with it.
And that's man, and that is a I love the I love the I love the transparency of that. I got my man pulling up, Arthur Extraordinaire, Darren. He's the guy. He's a young rising kings podcast. Arthur, he's pulling up to join the conversation. What up, bro?
What up,
Hey,
bro?
what's going on? Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, we
Absolutely. How you
good. We
doing
can
today,
hear
bro?
you.
All right. What's up, man?
Appreciate
You
you
know what?
pulling up to our discussion on the state of the church. So we just were talking about the church in itself, and Dane was kind of talking about where he is and how it's kind of lost this appeal to him as it was as far as like 10 years ago. We were really and both of us, or even 15 years ago, we were really about being in the church.
Uh-huh.
Where you stand on it, like where are you at in your walk in reference to the church?
So I think what happened for me is that I really had to find some people I can relate with. And I had this I told this story before, is that I had an issue with trying to rely on like people to kind of fulfill me as far as friendships and stuff like that. And I think when I was in the what going through the church, because my wife works for the church, I was like, man, I got to be able to kind of find people that I can kind of relate to and all the other kind of stuff that will kind of keep me engaged in the church. But what I found is that God was just really calling me and saying that, hey, you need to stop relying on people and allow me to be your best friend. And I think that's kind of what kind of helped me be the kind of help define my purpose within the church, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so then when I was doing that, then I became like this great friend that people can say, hey man, look, he can be the same outside of church as he is on the inside of church. And so that's how I kind of formed my kind of where I'm at today, if that makes sense. And I hope I answered the question, because I feel like I forgot the question, but then I think I came back to it. So forgive me.
No, you good. So one of the things that I mean for myself, like this is not me interviewing y'all. So if y'all got questions or anything, like pop it up. It's just me facilitating the conversation, right? So
Right.
that this is not me trying to get y'all to respond. I'm going to respond too. It's just so I was a part of a large ministry for a very long time, and was completely committed to that ministry to the detriment of my relationship with God and my relationship with my wife. I happened to be on staff at this church for a few years, and I realized that I was so committed to the church that I really wasn't committed to the things that God had called me to, because I was committed to the church. And so for me, I was just like, in this particular ministry, you have things that you function in church that are currently not really biblical or New Testament biblical or Jesus example biblical, like armor bearers, right? Armor bearers was a thing that David had. Jesus didn't have armor bearers, he had disciples.
That's right.
And so for me, I became a armor bearer, and I became really ingrained into the church. And every time that the church opened, I was in the church, and sometimes the church would be open and God wouldn't be there.
Mm.
Now, over time, we end up leaving that ministry, and because I started to see things, when you start to get on, you start to be ingrained, and you become a yes man. I think that's when you lose your effectiveness, right? As a person in general.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
I became a yes man, and when I started validating foolishness, and when I started validating people getting hurt, I knew it was time for me to make a transition, because that's not the reason why God started his church. You know what I'm saying? Like, and for me, it definitely wasn't the reason. So where I've been with the state of the church over the last couple of years, because that was 20, we left that particular ministry in 2010. And so I've been processing, and it took me about 3.5 years to get healthy. So, of being intentional to get healthy. But where I am currently now with the church, I think it serves a purpose, but I think that how it's presented and what we have presented as why you should come to church is not the reason why you should go to church, if that makes sense. So
Absolutely.
for me, the church was a hospital when I first got saved. So I needed to be in the building as much as I possibly could, because I was hurt and I was broken. But there was the matriculation process is not a natural matriculation process. Um, and this is not me trying to bash the church. I'm just saying from my experience. It's like you get all the education, you get all the equipping to do what? Only to have to come back and to be stuck in the church, right? Like school says, get your degree, go out into the workforce and apply what you learned. Church says, get all the knowledge, get everything that you can, and then come back into the church. There was a period where I didn't lead anybody to Christ for 7 years. Nobody came to know Christ or get into a personal relationship because I introduced it to them
Hmm.
for
I
7
think.
years.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was about to say I was in that same state, but my perspective is I rely solely on what the pastor said on Sunday versus doing any studying for myself Monday through Saturday. And so when you don't stand for anything, you just fall for everything. You know what I'm saying? It's like that
For
was
sure.
one of the things. And so my old pastor, I love him. You know what I'm saying? But then when I started recognizing the word, I can separate the foolishness, the theatrics versus what the word said. You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? But until I kind of learned it for myself, then I didn't know the difference. And I think the problem, one thing that I now recognize is that he will always say like, "Man, well, who have you led to Christ?" And I would just feel so bad about it because I was like, I don't even know the first thing about lead. I don't even know how to lead people to Christ. Like, what do I do? I didn't know any of that, and it kind of felt bad because he would mention that, but I would feel bad about it. And then I was like, man, well, how can I? Only when I started reading the word for myself did I recognize how I related and how Christ can actually live through me, versus living like on me and like through me or around me versus kind of coming through me through my personality, through my shortcomings, through my strengths and all the other kind of stuff. Only until I read the word for myself. Even as powerful as my pastor's words were, none of that mattered Monday through Saturday because it was like, I got it on Sunday, and then after that, we going out to eat, and about Monday morning, I forgot what they even talked about. You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? So it was like, so it's like Monday through
Right.
Saturday, I have nothing. I'm going into work, living just like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? But I say I'm a Christian, but if somebody ever try to dispute and try to go like, I don't want to say battle or like just say, hey man, well, I'm going through some stuff, or hey, can you show me what this God thing is like? And I had nothing to give them because I'm like, well, I just know Jesus saves because because that's kind of like what I hear on a regular basis that Jesus
Right.
saves. And so up until I was able to sit under, I think first it was internal. I had to say, okay, I have to be intentional about getting the word for myself. And then on top of that, I had to listen to speakers that challenged me to want to go dig deeper in the word to kind of find out and kind of confirm what he was saying, all that kind of stuff. And then that's when things started changing for me.
I dig it. I
I
dig
dig
it.
it. I dig it. Mo, one of the things that you talked about was the armor bearer situation.
Uh-huh.
And I too was at that ministry when I met you. You were serving there and went on to be on staff and whatnot. Um, my wife and I were about 4 or 5 years ago. We were asked to help plant a church, and naturally, we were there from day one of planting this ministry, man, and I got tapped on the shoulder, and I called you about it. As I remember, I was walking around outside. I called you that day, and I said, "Yo, what are your thoughts on this armor bearer, this role of an armor bearer?" And at that point, you were walking in this understanding that you are today, where it's not necessarily biblical, and you gave me some wisdom on that, and I appreciated that. But it really goes to highlight the difference between Jesus, who was making disciples, and the pastors who are making mini me's, and not in the greatest of ways, man. It really, I want to say, and I'm the one. Darren Moe will tell you, I'm the one that they keep chained up in the back because I'm liable to say anything. But
Oh man, we don't
but
like people like y'all, man. Y'all need to stay in the back, right?
and
That crazy
Peter
uncle.
Peter we say Peter for Peter type occasions, bro.
Yeah.
But but no, it's more the shenanigans I refer to are the theatrical, where there's it's my duty and I'm not saying it's your duty to bring the podium out at this point. Not yet, because the sermonic selection is high. Wait until it starts to die. Okay, now bring the podium out. Yeah, I have some thoughts, man, and I'm still trying to figure out if they are okay to share, man, because I've been in services, guys. We've all been in Mo. We talked about this. We've been in services where everything was done inside of 90 minutes, and I've also been in services where, sheesh, we didn't get much accomplished in 90 minutes. But every song is going 15 minutes, and we got to honor the pastor. We giving the pastor more honor than we giving the God who gave us breath. It's a lot for me.
So in this, like, do you think, and this is a question that I'm just asking, and we can all kind of merry-go-round it. Do y'all think that as a young person right now, like if you were not already exposed to Christ or church, would it be something that you would be attracted to going to right now?
So let me say this from this perspective. I've been driving Lyft for about 5 months, and I'm the same person from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, and I have these conversations. Whenever the situation leads that way, when the conversation goes that way, we get into this, conversation. And so a young lady today, we had a fantastic conversation. She's a college student, and she ended up asking me if I knew of any great churches that I could point her towards. I've had that happen maybe 4 times in 5 months. I've had more people asking me, which venues I would recommend, or dropping people off so they can go dance for dollars. And I'm not knocking the arts, but it's not enough people in search of. So those young people, man, I think they really could care less. But feeling how I feel about it, it's hard pointing people to any church that especially one that I've got experience with. It's tough because I don't want to send somebody somewhere where they may or may not get hurt, or not hurt, but mishandled.
Yeah.
Like
what about you?
Not send people to places where they may get cut, places where I've seen people get cut. It's hard for me to send people there.
Right.
And right. That can go for any number of churches.
So for me, I have a few good churches that I associate with. So when people do ask me, even though I pastor a church right now, and but my church is online, if people want the gathering portion of the church, I have a couple of churches that I refer them to that I know that they'll get good, solid word, that they will be able to, they'll be able to grow from a word perspective without the fluff. Yeah. So I think that, like, and so my goal for this was just like, I don't want to bring up a problem without a solution, right? Because then we're just part of the problem.
That's correct.
If we have a problem with no solution, and we're just pouring things on the problem and not a solution, what is something that you think right now that the church could do that would draw outside of the let's take the aesthetic stuff off, the stuff that we use for bait, because sometimes you got to do some bait stuff, but at what point, what do you think that the church could do right now to draw young men into church? What would be something that you would think? Because part of the thing is like we we have a system. We have the system of God's church. And I think the incorporation of men's ideas into the system of church starts to pull people away from the true meaning and reason why we're all supposed to be in this space is to heal, grow, go out, get more fish, to bring them back in, to heal, grow, and things like that. But what do you think is the hindrance of going and getting more fish and bringing more fish back in to grow and get more fish?
Bro, I tell you, the number one thing that most people have a problem with is when they walk into a church, all they see are people, a sea of people in the church with planks in their eye. But as soon as you get to know the person, you have a problem with the speck in their eye. And the Bible talks about that. And so a lot of people feel like there's a lot of people that have forgotten where they came from. Not even where they came from, Darren. They want to sweep under the rug what it is that they got going on. You know, when they get out of church. I've been that immature believer, bro, years ago. That was some relationships, bro. I ain't no some. That was one in particular, bro. As soon as I left church, it was on and popping. Be damned what the sermon topic was. It was
Right. Right.
hey,
Yeah.
he gotta have it. Okay. It was that immature space, but a lot of the saints, man, they act like, you know, and Tim Ross said something in that Breakfast Club interview. I know you gonna bring that up, man, but he said something. Charlemagne asked him a question, and Tim responded that it's not come as you are, it's come until we find out who you are, what you got going on.
Yeah.
And that's when all of that judgment, oh, you know, she's sleeping with two men. Like, how is that attractive? And instead of that discipleship piece, hey, sweetheart, I care enough about you to not talk about you behind your back. Let me approach you in love, and let's talk about why this is not a healthy behavior. But
So
Yeah, I
so you
think
go ahead, Darren. Go ahead.
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. So I
No,
was
go
gonna
ahead. Go ahead.
say I
Go
agree
ahead.
totally with what you're saying, Damon. Like I believe like I do men's group every Wednesday night here at my house. And I think the one thing that we do is that I say the first time you come, you're not obligated to speak at all. You don't have to say nothing. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing. It's like we don't require you to do anything when you come to church. You just come. Like we don't need you to do this. We don't need you to do that. We don't need you to join this, join that, do this, do that. We just want you to come and sit. Second, what we do is guess what? I got a men's group. We hungry. I feed them. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just one of them things like we gotta it's cliche to say we got to meet them where they are. We got to go, hey, go down to where they're at. But at the same time, it's like, man, like I just see it in action as far as even like my men's group and at my church. It's like there's no there's no preconceived notion of what you've been through based off of what you look like or anything like that. But then there's transparency too. Like I know several times that people say, man, I'm able to share because I see that you are vulnerable in what you've been through. So when we talk about that or whatever, and I know I've been in churches, I've been that guy that at the end of service, I sit back in the back of the church and talk about what everybody wore. Did you see such and such do this and do that and laugh and joke about it? I've been that dude. But that was my old self, you know what I'm saying? I ain't getting nowhere doing that.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I'm like, I've grown since then, and I realized that and I guess I'm just speaking for men. I'm a little biased here because I got a men's group, but it's just like, how do we get like the men to speak and be vulnerable and be like, all right, man, this is what I really need. I really need God. He's the only one that can do this. Well, hey, it's just like sitting around a whole bunch of dudes or whatever, a whole bunch of people that's like minded. Just like you said, like people know when you kind of staring at them and calling them out and judging them and all the other kind of stuff. And I just think it's just I think it starts with the love piece, like the genuine love of, you know, kind of like Jesus was like, hey, we all here from scratch. I used to be exactly where you used to be, but it gets better after this. And I think that's part of kind of what I've learned that maybe I didn't do at other churches that now I'm doing now is just saying, look, I'm just going to live. And then it's about being the same person everywhere you go. So people see me in men's group that I say certain, that I talk a certain way, and they see that I talk in church a certain way. I'm like, man, well, this dude is real. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's just not being two-faced. And you know what does our generation, what does the younger generation, like I got a 19-year-old daughter, what does she, what does she expect? And I think it's just kind of all the same thing. Where I mean, they social media, they live off lies. So it's just like, okay, well, what's
Right.
different about the church? Well, we the truth. You know what
Social
I'm saying? So I
media,
think,
on social media, I am whatever I post. That's who I am. That's
Mhm,
who I am, is whatever it is you see me post. So I can be what you said. It's all lies, bro. Um,
mhm,
but to your point, Darren, that credibility is everything, bro. And
mhm,
and I think the biggest thing with men is it takes time to get to build credibility, because men will watch, women too. People will watch you and never say a word to you. So a lot of people have watched me over the last 20 years go from womanizing and being way out, and they've watched me reel it back in and become this more mature guy. And that has helped with the credibility piece. I've been married going on 13 years now, and I ain't even got to speak to that. It's not, hey, let me rub your feet every day. Um, some days it's your feet stink and you must not rub. But no, just the fact of fighting for that thing, man. It speaks a lot to credibility. So all things considered, man, to what you said, bro, authenticity breeds authenticity. And so when you open up, and that's really, man, that's who I pride myself on being, man, is somebody that's forthcoming, sometimes to a fault, but forthcoming because I know that the reciprocity is going to come where, boom, I hit somebody with some information they weren't expecting, then automatically they know I'm not there to take from them.
yeah.
So we have Shayna on. Hey Shayna, and had glad to see you that you popped up and pulled in. Thank you for that. She said, "Love and be transparent. Love, transparency is the key. Love and transparency is the key." So one of the things, Damon, when you said, I listened to that podcast and Tim Ross was dropping some jewels, and one of the things, it's like come as you are, right? Until we find out what it is that you're coming from. And now when we find out what you're coming from, it's no longer come as you are. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
like we how do now we have this perception of you and forget, like y'all both of y'all said the same thing, but I think it's easy to forget your walk out of darkness.
Sure.
you know I was that same guy. I was so far gone. You know what I mean? Like I forgot that I was even a sinner. That's how bad I was.
Yeah.
Like just like I came out the womb like this. I've been walking with Jesus before predestined. I was that dude. Um and then but I became dogmatic and religious and very judgmental, and nobody wanted to be around me. So I was, instead of attracting people, which is what we're supposed to do, I became the repellent, because nobody wanted to be around me or be in me, because I was judging their sin, and nobody likes to be judged in their sin from somebody that they have no relationship with, out of not love, but out of condemnation.
That's it. And
Mhm.
so going back to that podcast. Oh, and real quick, that's Jermaine. He's tapped in on Shayna's page. He said, "This is Jay."
Oh,
So
okay.
what up, Jermaine? Yo, but going back to that podcast episode, there's an expectation of okay, no matter where you came from, no matter how long you've been doing it, this your second Sunday coming here. Let's Thanos snap you, and now everything is you
Right.
brand new, and it's not the case. So that goes back to what you were saying earlier about the key being the discipleship piece, because and that the discipleship piece obviously takes an example. The disciples had the greatest example that they walked with in Jesus for those 3 years. Um, but that's the key, man. And for that, obviously, it takes men who are healthy enough
Right.
to be disciples. I mean, to be to have disciples, I
To
guess.
be the example. So, Darren, I commend you pulling men into your crib and being the example for those group of men that you have, being 1 or 100 men that's pulling up through your crib.
Word.
They still have to be an example. And Damon, the Thanos snap, it was a great analogy that he used. He what he said was, he said we want people to come as they are until we understand what they're coming from, and then we want them to the Thanos snap out of years of whatever that they were in, years of sinning, years of trauma, years of
You know
whatever
what
that they
happens,
were.
bro? What happens, bro, is that now we have, oh, well, he lifts his hands like this, so let me lift my hands like this. And we have actors. You know, we have people who aren't becoming anything other than actors and copies of a copy.
Yeah. But what he was saying, that's good. But when he was saying that Thanos snap, I looked at that and was like, I think that's one of the keys that if the church could switch the switch and allow people to process into becoming, as opposed to you came to church 2 or 3 weeks, you should be serving somewhere, you should be, man, I got baggage when I rode up in this joint. I
Word,
got I got suitcases,
word,
plural. So it's
word.
all kind of stuff that I got to walk through. I got to walk through childhood trauma, abandonment issues, trust issues. I got to walk through all this stuff that I have to walk through, but I need an example. And I'm gonna speak for me. Like when I got saved at 25, 26, I got saved at 26. I had an example of what that looks like. There was my mentor, and I was like, yo, this cat is solid. Didn't know what it was because I was unsaved and didn't know it was the God in him. So I had an example, and then not only did I have an example, I attached myself to the example and asked as many questions as I could to get what it was that he had, which only thing that he had was a solid relationship with Christ, and he just lived it out.
Mm.
And so I attached to that, and so he then processed me on how to have a solid relationship with Christ and just live it out.
Yeah, I think the most one of the most important pieces is like being intentional, and really, as we all know, is being Holy Spirit led. That's how I like to see. Like we gotta, I always in my men's group or whatever, I do a little funny and all that kind of stuff, but then I do a little Holy Spirit activate too. Like you know what I'm saying? Like because it has to be a mix. It got to be and then he's really all in all of it. But I think it's just like, man, like we have a guy that's here at our group now, and he's so intentional about, like if I say a scripture, hey, where you find that? Let me go read more on that. Let me see what that's about. Or hey, well, what did you think? Or how did you go through this experience? I think he's 27 years old, and he'd just be asking questions and asking questions. And I think it makes it more. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's going to be like that, but it got to be like a hunger there for at least for it to be a little easier. But then everybody's not going to be there either. You know what I'm saying? Because just like you said, everybody has that hurt. But I think the most important thing, what I've learned too, is patience. Patience is key through all that stuff, because as much as we want them to get on board and help us with the volunteering and all the other kind of stuff, we just got to be patient enough to say, look, man, they just ain't gonna be there, and I don't know when, but I just got to do my part in dropping the seed and allowing God to do the water and create the growth.
Let me ask you guys a
Absolutely.
question, Mo. Let me ask you, Aaron, a question. So I forget who it was that I heard say this. I can't think of who I heard say it. Maybe you guys remember. But one of the reasons that men aren't attracted to church is because these the wives are giving the pastor all of this praise and adoration and attention, and then when she comes home, she's not giving that to her husband, which then creates a resentment between the husband and the pastor. Do you think there's any weight to that?
Yes. I believe that there's a way to that. Now that wasn't my situation because it was reversed. I was the one that was in the circle,
Sure.
and my
Yeah.
wife was on the outside of the circle, and it became an issue for her that I was more engaged and more attentive to uh, this pastor's wife than I was to her. So I seen that,
Mm,
but then I also counsel several people who had that same. The man is like, but she don't even give me that attention. She don't even acknowledge me like that. Or you come home and say, "Well, pastor said," and it's something that's coming directly at me, and it's like, okay, but why are you so into him and you're not into me?
That's it.
So I've seen both sides of the coin. Now, is it is it a it? I think that's just out of context and out of balance, though. You know what I'm saying? Like when you have that place, and normally what I tell if I'm counseling a couple that is that's in that situation, I really suggest that they pull back out of that church for a minute and really develop their relationship. And then when they get to a place where they're ready to get back into that place of church, I recommend that they go find a church that they can grow at together where there's no expectations set from either party.
That's good.
yeah,
That's
I'm a completely agree with you, Pastor. I think that's the number. Oh, my fault. Yeah, Pastor. So I think it's just so I was about them streets, as my boy say. I'm crispy, man. You know what I'm saying? And my wife, she was saved. You know what I'm saying? So she was saved. Um, and I think the expectations, I think that's the number one key as far as when you're talking about relationships and marriages is the expectations. So number one, if the wife is going to church and the husband isn't, then there has to be some type of expectation there that that your husband ain't going to church. So you throwing what the pastor said at him is a red flag. Is a red flag automatically. You know what I'm saying? It's just you already know he ain't going to church, so why come and throw something like that at him when you come home? But
Right.
it's just like, but then it's like expectations. Like, okay, let's sit down and say, my wife and I, we can say, all right, well, we got this space. All right, babe, hey, I got to tell you something serious. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, no expectations. Don't get mad. We're creating a safe space. And then it's like, okay, well, these are some expectations that I have or that I would like to move forward. What's your thoughts about it and all that other kind of stuff? Because that's really what it boils down to is the expectations. Like if you already leaving them home, knowing they ain't going to church, why come and harass them when you come home about church? When you
Right.
already know that he ain't going to church. So it's just like one of
Right.
them things like that. I think that's really from my perspective, and Pastor, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's just like one of those things. Like you can't have it both ways. You can't let your man sit at home, but then come and tell him about church and harass him about it when he already sitting at home and doing all the other kind of stuff.
Oh, for sure. That's
yeah,
that's a
absolutely.
that is a you own it. You you have a unrealistic expectation that you're holding over me, and then you gonna come in and then put that on me. Now I'm going to be mad. Now the very thing that is supposed to draw is the
Hmm.
thing that becomes a repellent,
That's
Yeah.
right.
because I've seen it work. I've seen the wife get out the way, and I seen her die to self, and I see and the men that become committed to the church, they are in 100% when it's real and authentic to them.
Hmm.
They are ride or die. Um and I think overall, as a whole, like when people start seeing these pieces move in the church, because people are coming into church with all kind of different at all different levels, right?
Hmm.
And they're all carrying different stuff. So when you see that, people are forming the idea of what church is based off of what they see going on around them and the perspectives and the things that's going on around them. So and what they seen growing up or their experience with church. So when we come in and I don't see any men,
Mm.
like my whole experience with church was different all the way across the board. I came into a church that was full of men. I learned how to worship from a man. I learned how to study a Bible from a man. You know what I mean? Like, so my whole experience was different. And when I used to go to other churches, I'm looking around. I'm like, why all these women in church? My church don't look like that. But when people came to my church, they like, where all the women at? Because our church don't look like that. You know, so it's about perspective and how you form the pieces. But I think over time, as you grow, you start to learn how to form what works together for you. Um, but in the script, so I have some questions here, and you talked about it: the expectations and reality. How important is the expectation? And now we're talking land. This ain't marriage. This is the landscape of like your men's group, your children, right? Like you want your children to grow up and be active and all this other stuff. In the landscape of that, what is the expectation, and then what is the reality in that? How much does that play a part in them moving into what God has called them in a church setting?
So I think so when we talk about expectations and reality, like as far as like with my kids, maybe in our men's group and everything like that, is I've seen it play out so many times. So I would consider myself a little I don't want to say mature, but I would say I'm a teenager in Christ. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Something like that, where I would say that I understand that somebody that's broken, kind of like you talked about before, is not going to come and be speaking scripture the first time that they come. Most times what I've seen is that they probably won't talk for at least about 3 or 4 men's groups before they actually start saying, hey man, I can really start talking about some stuff. Or like even at church, before I invite anybody from my church to a men's group, I dap them up, let them know that we here. First of all, I let them know that we here, like we here, the black man is here, we
Right.
representing and we serving Christ and we having fun doing it. Hey, I do that for the first 3, 4 sessions because I don't want them to get overwhelmed or feel like I'm catchy, a salesperson and all the other kind of stuff. And then after about 3 or 4 different times, I say, hey man, hey man, I would give them some dap and all that kind of stuff. Hey man, I got a men's group happening that Wednesday night at my house. We got food. We do this, we do that, all the other kind of stuff. We exchange numbers. I give them my information, all the other kind of stuff. So my expectations are, my expectations are a little different too, because I'm like, as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I don't get overwhelmed with the process and saying, man, they're not where I think they should be, because I realize that God's timing is important. And just like you said, Maurice, that the timing is not based off of what I expect, because I don't know all the stuff that they've been through. I don't know if they've been doing this and doing that. So I don't know the journey that they've taken them on. So I would believe that when we talk about the reality and the expectation, is I say, okay, what can I do today to plant that seed and to do these different things, and then and then watering it and then allowing God to give the increase. And so I'm patient when it comes to that, as far as saying, look, man, like I don't have any timetables on what I expect from you and where you should be. All I'm going to do is just be there, because most times, men, we just want somebody to say, hey, what's up, man? How was your week? And that's it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? We don't want like deep dive in. Did you read your Bible every week? Did you fast? Did you pray? You know what I'm saying? Did you know what I'm saying? Did you, all that kind of stuff. I think it's just, I think it's a turn off for men. What I noticed too, and what I've seen other people do, is they don't want to get bombarded with all that stuff. They already got enough going on. You know what I'm
Well,
saying? It's just basic stuff. Give me a dap. What's up? Hey man, I had a good week. Keep it moving.
Darren, that's so mature of you, man. But one thing that I wanted to say, bro, is that, and I know you know this, but the biggest thing about it is your role is just being the example.
Mm-hmm.
You being the example, it speaks volumes to them. Because a crooked stick doesn't know it's crooked until it's laid beside a straight one. And
Mm.
so just at a basic level, bro, we all know from a young age, we know the difference between wrong and right and wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
so to your point, the the last thing somebody wants is, hey, did you fast this week? What did you eat? Did you slip up on Tuesday? You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, as they grow in their relationship, man, and those things will happen, man. So salute to you, bro, because you own it, bro. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're being the example. You're not responsible for the fruit. You're responsible for either the planting or the watering. That's it.
Mhm. I think. Can I say one more thing, Pastor
Okay,
Maurice?
hey, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah. So Damon, yeah, I used to work at Bank of America, and what I noticed is just, and this is kind of when I was a new Christian. What I did is I realized that being who I was the best thing that I could do for living for Christ. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't need to, what I struggled with before, like as far as like trying to imitate somebody, oh man, this is the how he do it, this is how I should be doing all other kind of stuff was, I think in the beginning stages it gave me an example, but then at the same time I realized that man, the best way that I can lead people to Christ is just being exactly who I am. And so when I was working at Bank of America, everybody was about them streets. They would go out drinking, all that kind of stuff, and do the regular, coworker thing. Hey, we going to Thirsty Thursday or whatever they call it now. I don't even know. I've been out of the world so long. I don't know what they call it now. But anyway, so they would be doing all that kind of stuff on the weekday, and I never went. But when it was time for somebody that needed some help with their relationship, they asked me, "Hey man, look, Darren, man, I know you're a little different or whatever. Can you give me some advice on this and what your thoughts are? I know you a They was like, I know you're a Christian. Can you give me some advice on what this is?" And because of the example that I led, and to be very simple, to be very, very basic, I didn't cuss. You know what I'm saying? That's what I noticed. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Just small stuff like that. It was just like I didn't cuss. I just didn't go to the little outings that they were doing or drinking. Or even if I did go, I got Sprite instead of all the little drinks that they be getting. It was just those small little things that opened the door for somebody to say, "Man, I really need something different that these other coworkers can't give me." But I know somebody here at the job that
Mhm.
can at least point me or give me some sound advice. And guess what? I was able to give them a little what we call that, a little parable, and they was getting the word and didn't even know about it.
Yo,
You know, one of the things that I hear both of y'all saying, but we're not saying it, is consistency. So people look at the authenticity and the consistency of your authenticity, right? So if you are being different and then you're not being different, then they're looking at that. They're going to base your consistency off of not of your inconsistency, right? Because I was in your same situation when I was the only person at at this place that was saved in the whole building, and the all the corporate officers used to come at me sideways, like throwing up Bible questions and throwing up all kind of stuff to try to throw me off and all that other stuff. But if I didn't have an answer, I didn't give them an answer. I would like, hey, let me go research that. Let me get back to you, because giving a bad answer is just as bad as giving the not answering at all. So I then played that out, right. I would go to the same parties and not drink and be the designated driver.
Hmm.
I would drive them. I would drive them home. I would take the keys when I see somebody. I did those things and was consistent at it. And I think that right now, as far as the state of the church, I think that the church has been showing inconsistencies as to what it is supposed to be doing and how it is supposed to be approaching the disciples that go ye therefore piece, right? We're inconsistent at how we've been as the church. Like some churches believe outreach is bringing people to the church. Some churches don't even do outreach.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like, how are we supposed to go get the people that we're supposed to disciple? We've been inconsistent. Some churches are like this. Some churches are like this. And what people do, we group everything in as a whole, as opposed to separating them So the whole body of believers look inconsistent,
Mhm.
not just that particular church. So so here's another question with that. How important do you think it is for the leader of the church to be connected to what's going on in the community without the people connecting him or him or her to the community? If that makes sense. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
how important do you believe that is from a leadership standpoint as the church as a whole? Because I have friends that are pastors, right? One particular one particular pastor has the only way that he's connected to the community is through a person who's connected to the community.
Mhm.
Outside that person, that pastor is don't know what's really going on in the community. Now, that person now has a new church that they're a part of, right? So that eliminates that pastor being in the know of what's going on in this community. How important do you believe it is for the leadership to be able to have a authentic relationship with the community and what's going on?
Well, Damon, I've been doing a lot of talking, so I'm gonna let you answer first, and then maybe I'll go.
Sure. I think that it's levels to it, Mo, and we all know that everybody's not built the same. And I can honestly say, I don't know, and I'm sitting here trying to think of one. I don't know of any other leader who's more active in the community than you are, Mo. Um, from the giveaways to the Habitat for Humanity work to the haircuts and just the whole 9 yards, man. And so everybody's not built that way. I would venture to say it's probably a scary percentage. It's good stuff that we don't know, the information we don't have access to that can't be tallied. But just think about it though, man, of all the startups, all the churches and all the pastors, how small or how big do you think the percentage is of pastors who have actually gone out and done any type of community? There's a small percentage. Because for the most part, the pastors are not focused on the community, but on the bank book. Most are focused on the business of the church and the numbers, and those things excite them, but not so much. And I can't say that because I haven't spoken to all. I don't know all, so I can't say most. But from my perspective, um, that community piece is not a big focus. And again, I grew up in the old Baptist church where, you know, getting to the fellowship hall to eat the fried chicken and then come back. We're hosting Ebenezer this evening at 6, and we want everybody to come back. That's been the focus, but not so much the going ye therefore.
Mm.
And then you don't have all right.
You're gonna have to leave that microphone alone, big bro.
Oh,
Yeah, you
my
good.
bad.
Yeah, quit
Yeah.
touching it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Um. So I have my friend Miss Holly on here on Facebook, and now she's an amazing woman of God. We did ministry together. She served in the ministry at a very high capacity, and she is phenomenal at what she's doing. An amazing woman of God, and she said we gotta live love. That we gotta live love. We have to live love. So I work for a nonprofit, and the nonprofit that I work for sits in this underserved community. It is 7 churches within walking distance of each other from our location. and we have two churches that meet within our building. Now, the community around us, has a very high homeless population, and then we have two housing authority apartments around on both sides of us. 7 churches.
Wow.
Now, I'm friends with the pastors of all these churches. They are all really good human beings. They love what they love. I mean, like they love. Do you know what their challenge is though? They haven't figured out how to come together as one church to impact and change the community. So you have, they know what's going on. You might have one church who has a congregation who's a little bit more interactive in the community than some of the other churches, and you have some churches that are older. So the older people grew up in the community, right? So they don't have the energy or the stamina to go out into the community. So that church is struggling. What I'm trying to do with them as a whole is say, how do we come together as one church? It doesn't matter where the people go, because we're serving as the church, one God, one Lord, one baptism, and we come together and put something together to impact the whole church. Not saying that they're opposed to it. The challenge becomes the execution of it. So to say all that to say they kind of know what's going on in the church. Some of them been there for a long time. So and there's one new pastor, he's been there for a year, so he's still kind of learning the community. So I've been kind of telling him, hey, like, here's what's going on. He's a young guy too, so he has the stamina to want to get out of the community. But everybody else is 60 or older. You think that play a part in how they should approach the community, and they're serving the community?
That's tough. Because being older like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't expect them, 60, 70 or whatever to do much, but I think they do add value. I'm not going to say that they got to run the community and all the other kind of stuff, but they do add value because they can pull on the heartstrings of somebody like me that really need them. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's really just if you knew better, you do better. It's just like if they knew like, hey, all you got to do, you don't have to do the big hoorah and do all this other kind of stuff. If you just talk to somebody, you know what I'm saying, and say, hey, I feel what you're going through. I remember connecting back when Trayvon Martin and we had all these little different things that was going on. I was hurt. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, I want to go when I go on Sunday. I want to be able to hear a word from my pastor that's going to resonate with me based off this past week that I've been through, because I've been through some hard stuff. And you know what I'm saying? And I didn't want to hear Jesus saved. You know what I'm saying? I wanted him to say, man, I see what you're going through, and this is how Jesus saved. You know what I'm saying? And so when I walked up there on that Sunday morning and they ain't say nothing about nothing, I was like, man, is this where I belong? You know what I'm saying? It was just like, did you not just see what was going on out there on these streets? Like, I'm hurt. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's just like, hey, if we can just say, look, I got the power to do this, and say, look, man, I can do it. Or even if it's just some young boys, because sometimes it takes somebody else to recognize the potential in you anyway. And it don't have any age bracket on it. That don't matter how old you are. I'm realizing too, is that don't have no age on it. If you say, man, look, man, I know you're old, I know you ain't as spry as you used to be, but hey, I can use you right here. You can do this. And that just adds so much value to them, to you, and to all that kind of stuff, man. I think that would change the game, to say, look, man, you ain't out to fight yet. You may can't move. We may have to wheel you somewhere, but you ain't out to fight yet. You know what I'm saying? And we could really use you on these streets. And I'm telling you, man, that'll excite them. That'll excite everybody in the community. I think that's something that we're missing, is just the lack of communication. We would rather like, hey, well, you over here, you over there, you hand. It's almost like like where I'm living in South Carolina, it's a whole bunch of churches. There's a church on every block, and it's almost like um, they become gangs or whatever, like Bloods and Crips. Like, you know what I'm saying? Hey, don't mess with my set, don't mess with this, don't mess with that. Hey, this my corner, this my corner. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Instead of saying like, hey, we need to come together and say, look, man, we got so many souls out here that are dying. Can't we come together and do this thing? So I think that's what it is, man.
You know what the challenge is? And Holly says that God has admonished us to go into the world and preach the gospel, meeting the community. That's the first time I actually really looked at it like that. Going all the world, going to the community. That is a great perspective. You know what the challenge is when you try to say work together? So like my church is online. So I'm more of a freelance. Like I tell these pastors, anytime you want me to pull up and you need a break, holla at me, I pull up. So I deal my day job, I run a leadership development for youth. So I work with middle school and high schoolers and teach them life skills. So I'm connected in grade with all the youth in probably 15 schools in our area, right? Now, I the propose was how do we do something and draw all the students to an event,
Mm.
and so they came so like a outsider of this group, and I'm like, I got the connection to the kids, we could do this. I was like, here's what I propose. Once a month we just rotate the event at the different church, the churches in the area. We just rotate it. Everybody gets to shine. Everybody gets the chance to host. Everybody gets the chance to do this. But initially, when I was about to plant a church behind our building, and this was a few months ago, the word got out on the street that I was coming to take the youth
Mm.
from these churches. Now, that was not I didn't say so. Somebody came up to me that's a part of that was a part of these churches, like two different people from two separate churches came up to me and was like, I heard you trying to you about to start a church and take our youth. I was like, where'd you hear that from?
Mm.
What made you think that I am going to start a church and pull all your youth? Well, you already know that I work with youth. You already know that I have the relationship with the youth. You already know that I have that connection and could draw them in. But I'm not trying to be taking youth from people's churches. But here's the problem. Because these youth see me all the time, they see me authentic, they see me walking in love, they see me accepting them where they are, not judging them, which is what attracts people to the church. Is a you come because I was messy one time. I don't care how you come in here. I create a space to where you could feel comfortable. They assumed that I was going to be taking their church and the youth. And if you get the youth, the parents are going to be interested, right?
Right.
Because I'm not going to send my son somewhere that I'm not going to go check out.
Hmm.
I'm going to go check it out. And if it's rocking, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a solid place. So it became all that. So I had to go to these pastors and tell them because they all thought that's what was going on because somebody said that was going on. So I went individually to each one of them pastors and told them that wasn't the case.
Bro, you
Mm.
know that mess travels faster than if you were
The
doing
truth,
something
absolutely.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things to answer your question, bro, I was thinking that being able to capture the hearts of some key leaders in both age groups, right? In the youth and amongst the elders, and then bringing those key leaders together for a conversation. That's where it starts, I would say.
Mm.
Build a
I
bridge.
like that. I
Build a
like that.
build,
Yeah, build a
and that's
bridge.
one of the things that I'm passionate about, man. And yeah, I got a lot of bridge building to do in my own vineyard, real talk, because that's something that's and I had this conversation. As a matter of fact, yesterday I had a gentleman in my car, 80 years old, just as clear as he could be. And when I say our conversation was next level on the state of the culture. He's 80 years old, so he's seen a whole lot. As a matter of fact, I believe he said he was born on the day the bomb was dropped in the war, the two bombs, in fact. But man, it's one of those things where we have to find the youth who are actually eager to learn and listen and be a part of the solution, as well as the elders who still have the energy and the care. Because what I find, to your point, Darren, is a lot of the elders, once they hit that 65, 70 point, this is what it's going to be. I don't need anything on my plate. I've earned my rest. And yeah, let somebody else, what the old lady in the store say, get somebody else to do it.
Finding the right one.
Yeah, that's it. I'm crazy enough to believe, man, that on both sides there are people that care enough that we can be this change that we want to see collectively. I believe that.
I believe that as well. Look, I ain't gonna hold y'all guys. Like, I really appreciate y'all pulling up. This is just a intro to something that I'm gonna be doing on a regular basis, just because I want to add. Again, my goal is not to tear the church down. I don't want to bring reproach to God's institution. I want to have a discussion to where, how do we help the pastors and the churches out here who have these questions but just don't know how to get them answered, and then how do we be a better representation so that that we are lifting God up so that we can be drawing all men unto us.
Well, bro, I want to salute you again for being part of the solution and being active in these streets. And like I said, man, nobody's doing it on your level, man. So
but to God be the glory on that.
Rules in your crown, bro. And I know, but you're actually out here being about it instead of just talking about it. And I think that's where it starts, man. Is to what you just said. The previous question is: are the leaders, are the pastors out here actually touching the community, or are they just delegating? So I definitely have to give you your flowers, big bro, for being out here and being about it.
Well, I appreciate that. And Lennox, Lennon, I ain't seen him in a while, man. What's going on, bro?
That's Big L.
Big L from
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, I'm glad he pulled up. Hey, I'm glad you jumped in. I'm glad you jumped in the live. But really, what I want to do with this, I have some other topics that's not related to the church that I'm going to be presenting on the lives, most likely every third Thursday. But I want to use this as an opportunity because to me, it ain't about the views. It's about the impact. So if one life was changed, if one person had, my friend Holly said she wants to be on the show, I am definitely going to reach out to her when we get off of this, because I want to pull her up. She got a wealth of knowledge, and she served at a very high level in a ministry that worked in partnership with the ministry that we were a part of. So I definitely want to do that. I just want to get the conversation started, and I want people to bring their questions, their solutions to the table. I want to become a tool that effectively helps reconstruct the purpose of, or people's approach towards church, and just get people moving in that vein and in that direction. But we've been on here for an hour and almost 20 minutes, and I'm pretty sure we could run this thing for another hour and 20 minutes. My boy Darren lights that went out.
Look, the way my legs stuck, I can't reach the front porch. You know what I'm saying?
He has sunlight. We done talked the sun down on him. Man. So, I appreciate everybody pulling up to the Open for Discussion podcast. I'm your boy. We have Damon, the founder and CEO of Bro Can We Talk. We have Darren, the author of Heroes in Your Community. I got this book. Hold on. Right here. This is book.
Hey.
Yeah,
Oh,
I got his book, Heroes in Your Community. And he's going to be a guest on my podcast. So we're going to be talking about that and what led him to do that. But hey, I am Seymour Reese Ball, the host of Open for Discussion. Please go to our YouTube channel at YouTube at Seymour Reese Ball and subscribe and like and subscribe so that you can be tapped into a lot of the conversations that I got going on, because I interview some really dope people that's doing some really dope stuff that is about God's business, and I want to inspire, encourage, and motivate people to move and follow their purpose and their passion. But with this particular podcast, I just wanted to open the door to talking about the state of the church, and this is going to be an ongoing thing, and we're going to have more guests and more participation. Um, and I see my man Jody on too. Okay, let me get off of here before we turn this minute. I don't I don't want there to just disappear.
I try to get to the porch light. I can't get to it though. Ain't nobody listening to me. I can't text. Look, hey, turn the porch light on.
Well,
man, I enjoyed it, man.
Hey, appreciate you, Dame, man. Appreciate you, Maurice.
Man, hey, I appreciate y'all pulling up. This has been Open for Discussion, and tune into next time. I love you like a play cousin, and we out. Peace.